The overhaul of Tidmouth Harbour, now called Tidmouth Container Terminal, was in full swing. The harbour would soon be finished, and the railway had bought some container trucks. However, the Fat Controller had not been very open about which engine would be given the task of pulling the container trains from Sodor to the mainland. It should be a big strong engine, like Murdoch or Hank. I think you have forgotten, James. Steam doesn't run on the mainland anymore. Not enough coal or water. It's a shame. Makes me worried about my own express. It'll probably be some kind of diesel, like Bear or that Class 40. Maybe we should ask the Fat Controller? Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Very good, Douglas. So the next day, Douglas arrived at the big station to speak to the Fat Controller. Pardon me, sir, but I have a question. Yes, Douglas? I was thinking, who will be pulling these new container trains to the mainland? I already have a plan for that. I've been speaking to a freight company about buying 2 diesel engines from them. They were nice enough to offer me 2 brand new engines that I can have on trial. They've only recently been put into service, so of course, I took the offer. I see, sir. I hope they behave themselves. Don't worry, steam was abolished a long time ago, so I doubt these diesels will want you to be scrapped by now. You make a good point there. Anyway, you best be off to work now. Of course, sir. I'll see you later. A few days later, a pair of green and yellow diesels came into the yard. One was a Class 70 and the other was a Class 66. These engines were brand new and had only recently been built. Wow! Look at this, Kirby! It's like one of those old railway books my driver showed me! Whatever. Welcome to the railway. What are your names? I'm Mary. I'm really pleased to be here. Yeah, I'm Kirby. Well, Mary and Kirby, I suggest you go to the sheds. I'm sure you want to rest after your long journey. Yes, of course. Thanks. Mary and Kirby rolled into Tidmouth sheds. They surveyed the shed. I like it. I've never seen a place like this before. They even have a spinny thing. It's embarrassing. Engines like us should not be in an environment like this. This railway is famous. There are stories about the engines here. Maybe a story will be told about us. I hope not. How embarrassing would that be? What would the others back home think of a modern engine, like me, being put on an oversized heritage railway? Douglas was nearby and heard everything. He was very cross. He was about to give Kirby a piece of his mind when his driver pulled the lever and Douglas had to puff away. That evening, the Fat Controller came to the sheds to see how Mary and Kirby were settling in. I love it here. I can't wait to start my trials. Nah. Now I understand that this is different from what you're used to, Kirby, but don't worry. I'm sure you will get used to it in due time. Anyway, tomorrow you shall be trialed. You will be taking heavy goods trains to Vickerstown. I hope you two will prove to be really useful. And with that, the Fat Controller left. Douglas continued to stare at Kirby. He was still upset about what he said before. Kirby noticed this and got annoyed quickly. What? Ugh, didn't give me that. I heard what you said earlier. What are you talking about, Douglas? You should have heard him. Engines like us shouldn't be in this environment, and how embarrassing if stories were made of us. The engines glared at the diesels. Kirby just sniffed. He wasn't bothered at all, but Mary was very upset. I didn't do that. Promise. It was the other one next to her. Ugh, but it's true. You have to admit, Mary, engines like us don't belong here. This place is nothing but an oversized heritage railway. Oversized heritage railway indeed! We've got quarries, harbours, passengers and goods. We're a fully functioning railway, just like those others on the mainland. A heritage railway is where engines are stuck in their sheds and are only allowed out to pull passengers for people who just want to see them. We are real engines doing real work. I don't agree with Henry's description of a heritage railway, but yes, this is not just a heritage railway. Then this railway needs to get with the times. The sooner, the better. The engines were very cross. They all yelled and shouted, talking over each other. The noise was terrible. Shut up! I'm watching Gory! And no more was said. Kirby gave Douglas a smug grin, and he returned with a glare. The next day, Mary and Kirby were put on their trials. They waited as Philip shunted their trucks together. What's that? A brake van! All trains need a brake van. It's railway regulations. That! We don't use those where we come from. Oh? This railway's so behind, it's ridiculous. Come on, Kirby, let's get going. Come on, you lots, get going. Kirby was not pleased about having a brake van. He thought it was improper for a modern engine. He was in a bad mood for the rest of the journey, and the trucks had an awful time. Kirby was lucky they didn't try anything. When he arrived at Vickerstown Goods Yard, he was glad it was over. So were the trucks. Oversized matchsticks. Who's he to say that about us? Such a disrespectful engine. We'll get him. Don't worry. Kirby went off to go get some diesel fuel. As he was filling up, Rosie was shunting some trucks into the siding next to him. As she was shunting them over the points, one of the trucks in the middle of the train derailed, trapping Kirby on his siding. Whoops! That'll show you! You stupid Steamy. How I meant to leave the siding now. I'm stuck. Sorry. When Mary arrived in the yards, the yardmaster came to see her. Mary, there's been an accident and Kirby is trapped on his siding. Please can you take his return train as well as your own? Of course, you can rely on me. Come along, let's get going, let's get going. I don't think I've ever seen an engine so happy about pulling trucks. Mary was having a wonderful time. She was really loving Sodor so far, but the trucks were still cross about Kirby. What do we do? We'll cause trouble for this smaller one. The bigger one will see what we're made of. Good idea. Soon they came to Gordon's Hill. Mary felt the strain of the trucks here, but at last she reached the top and began to slow down. But as she slowed down, the trucks pushed her forward. On! Hey, stop! The driver put on the brakes, but they were useless against the surging trucks. At the bottom of the hill was a bend. The driver knew that they could never stop in time, and jumped clear. Mary shut her eyes and prepared for the crash. Mary opened her eyes. She was nestled on the rocks and sand close to the ocean. She was badly damaged, and some of the trucks were torn to pieces. But the trucks didn't care. They were very pleased with themselves. Mary was very upset. She felt like she had let Kirby down. Harvey soon arrived with the breakdown train and the fat controller. I'm sorry, sir. Don't worry, it's not your fault. You will be repaired at my works, and your trial will continue as normal. I just hope your manager won't be too upset. Yes, sir. Kirby was not pleased with Mary for having her accident. Can't trust her with anything. Guess it's up to me to show her worth. You won't be doing anything, laddie. And how are you going to stop me, laddie? Ugh, I'll report your behaviour to the railway board. They'll send you packing for sure. Huh, they won't do anything. I'm modern. This railway needs to upgrade. It's out of date. Even the diesels are old. It should be given a modern touch-up. More new diesels, some Class 67s here, some 180s there, and some 66s and 70s, like myself and Mary. And the railway would lose what makes it special. We are real engines. Ugh, you're nothing but a pin. Just leave and go home. That's ridiculous. Calm down, old man. The other engines gasped. No one dared speak back to the Scottish twins. They were very cross. Douglas went redder than James's paint. Old man, who do you think you are? No one speaks to Dougie like that. I'll bash your buffers in. You're nothing but soulless mash-produced rubbish. The Scottish twins continued to shout and swear at Kirby until they ran out of things to say. Kirby was lost for words. The other engines started to laugh at him. The look on his face was comic. Now bugger off and go to sleep. And Kirby did. The next day, he was sent off with another goods train. Come on, let's go. I heard that your friend Mary tried to go for a swim. Engines don't go swimming. I hope that you now see that we're not just oversized matchsticks. Huh. Mary's a weak engine. Good luck pushing me about. It was a big mistake for Kirby to say that as he was approaching Gordon's Hill. As Kirby went over the top and down the other side, he felt the trucks push against his buffers. Hey, stop pushing. Kirby struggled against the surging trucks. They crashed and banged and screamed behind him, but they were no match for him. Thankfully, Kirby was able to get the trucks under control, and by the time they reached Mainland Station, they had stopped. Oh, that was lucky. Yeah, let's just get moving. Kirby carried on going. However, as he rolled down the line, he started to get slower and slower. His engine made all sorts of strange noise, and black smoke bellowed from his engine. Must keep going. Must keep going. But it was no use. With one last splutter, Kirby stopped. His driver got down and inspected his engine. That's torn it. Those trucks didn't push you off the rails, but they did put a lot of strain onto your engine. We're not going anywhere now. Oh, of course this would happen. Kirby's driver ran down to the signal box. Lorry drivers were allowed their phones in the cab. What's the problem? Kirby's broken down. His engine's failed. Not surprised by the way he was coming past, I'll call up the next signal box and inform them about Kirby. The signalman retreated into his box to make the call. He returned shortly. Traffic has been halted both sides, but number 10 was signalled through with a goods train. Not to worry, once he gets here, I will ask him and his driver to give you a push. Oh, thank you. Soon Douglas arrived, and the signalman flagged him down. Kirby's broken down. We need you to go and give him a push. Douglas didn't want to help Kirby, but he knew that he couldn't hold up the main line. Ugh, fine, whatever. That's all I need. The steam pot's helping me. I didn't want to be here either, but I've got no choice. You better get moving. He probably can't pull me and pull his train. But Kirby was wrong. Douglas began pushing Kirby and pulling his train. It was very hard work, and Douglas found it very difficult. However, he wouldn't give up. Kirby was secretly impressed, but he wouldn't say so. Douglas pushed Kirby all the way to Crovan's gate. Once they arrived, Douglas came off the train and shunted Kirby into the works. "Isn't this the steam works? Deal with it. I could leave you on a siding if you like." That shut Kirby up. Another engine came to take Kirby's train. Ironically enough, it was a steam engine. Kirby felt very embarrassed. Douglas gave him one last harsh look before puffing away. Mary and Kirby's manager was very embarrassed about the problems that Mary and Kirby had had. As a way to apologize to the Fat Controller, both engines were sold. Mary and Kirby were now officially Northwestern engines. Their repairs took a few weeks. Coincidentally, their repairs were finished at the opening of the container yards, and they went straight to work. As time went on, the atmosphere around the Scottish twins and Kirby softened. However, that did not mean the twins automatically forgave Kirby for his rude remarks. Kirby had started to admire the Scottish twins. He was impressed by how hard they worked, and even he had to admit that they were probably the most hard-working engines on the whole railway. Their issues would be resolved, but that's another story.